Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.
Get it together, Givens.
I never realized that biofriendly is backwards.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what we do. We like to let people know that we're just backwards people.
For me, it's perfect.
Oh, so then must be how we see it.
When I look at you, I see you the way the Lord intended. You're all
So we look perfect
left
to you.
right, not right to left, like Americans.
Like Americans. Yeah, that's how the flag is, right? From left to right. Anyway.
I mean, our writing, like we do everything left to right. Whereas
China, they do right to left.
In most Asian cultures, they go right to left.
Yeah.
They do the opposite.
Yes.
So, like, if you're left-handed, but you're European, you're hosed.
Right.
Because you're writing across your ink all the time.
Oh, my gosh.
But if you're right-handed, in Asian cultures, you're hosed because you're writing with your right hand.
So are most of them lefties?
Well, that's up to genetics, I suppose.
Now, I had heard from a very unreliable source that we're supposed to be 50-50, roughly. That's what
we're supposed to be 50-50.
Like half of us are supposed to be lefties, half of us are supposed to be righties. But because like we force kids to use their sword hand, based on old traditions, to use their right hand to write, that more people are right-handed than left-handed. But some right-handed people were actually supposed to be left-handed. They just learned how to do it with their right hand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Is anybody in this crew here left-handed? Anybody?
I could bat left-handed.
You can bat left-handed.
Well, see, so she is. She's
better than right.
Better than right.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you usually bat left-handed?
No, when I was little, I always batted right, and then I was fast, so they were like, "Oh, you need to be a slap hitter," and then I fully made the transition to left-handed.
Awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that is cool.
I'm a righty. My mother's a lefty, but she's the only lefty in the house. Anybody in your fam left-handed?
I'm a righty, but my daughter's a lefty.
She's a lefty. Southpaw.
Yeah.
I don't have any lefties.
Yeah, it's rare. I mean, they're definitely not the largest
no, it's
population.
Not 50% for sure.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Not even close. Yeah.
Well, we've already started rolling. I'm including the right hand, left handed conversation in this podcast. I think it's fascinating. I think it's interesting. Why not?
Yes.
Classic bio-friendly content.
Yeah, but let's talk about some of the variables that the audience listening and witnessing are going to be noticing on this week's podcast. First off, they're probably going to notice it's not Noel sitting next to me. It's Elise. Elise is in the Noel chair. So for people who've been following the show for a while now, and absolutely since the last few months that Elise has joined the team, you're now seeing Elise for the first time.
Yeah.
Here she is.
It feels weird.
Does it feel weird? Camera shy?
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the bright side is that now the show is younger. It's faster. It's better looking.
Yes.
And I think it's going to win more awards.
I think we're going to this is the moment we arrived from now on.
Yeah.
So so how does it feel?
It's nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking. Okay.
But good. Hey, what's cool? It's like if you're a big time fan of the show, this is a big episode. This is the one you finally get to see Elise.
This is the series finale.
I just wish it was on better terms.
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about why Elise is in the spotlight and Noel is somewhere else in the world. We're doing a remote podcasts.
Australia.
This morning, I found out that somebody who I visited in the last was about 10 days ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Tested positive for COVID just today. So it's a little. I mean, I don't know if we're being overly safe or it's appropriate. I mean, I will say appropriately safe, but we're definitely trying to follow. It says on the CDC recommends that 14 days after you've seen someone, you should stay away from the public just in case. Now, I did take a COVID test. Everybody will be happy to know that I do not have it according to that test.
You're doing great. That's the CDC calling right now. Yeah. Stop calling CDC. He's doing what he's been asked to do.
I am, and I'm vaccinated in the whole bit. So
no.
Yeah. So I was not expecting to have it, and I don't. And my family's also been tested, and we're all good because we were all together on a vacation trip, and it happens, right?
It happens.
This is the world we live in. This is where we are. So we're being ultra safe.
You're being ultra safe.
Yeah.
You can be safe, but be ultra safe. Because ultra is a cool word to throw in front of any word.
Like the ultra soft.
Yes, and just be like, I'm ultra hungry today. It's such a futuristic,
I listen to ultrasound.
Yes, it's like such a 90s futuristic word. Like things were ultra.
Yes. Yes.
So anyway, I love the word.
Totally.
Love the word. Yeah.
Well, this is why I love Transformers, because it's it's mega, it's ultra, it's omega, it's
ultra,
supreme,
omega,
it's prime.
Yes, they're
Wait,
so
is there
cool.
a Transformer named Ultra?
There's got to be one. He would know. He's the master of all Transformers.
I actually don't.
It stops
think
at
there
Mega.
is.
Omega.
Definitely, there's lots of megas.
Optimus, Mega, but if there's not, there needs to be Ultratron. Well, that's because it doesn't sound right in front of Tron. Ultratron.
Yeah,
I can barely get that out.
Like Ultrabot or Ultramax or Ultra, something. I don't actually think there is an Ultra, but you'd think there would be, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like Astro Train.
Like a man-made Transformer, Ultrabot.
Yeah.
Ultrabot.
Yeah.
Or Ultra Schmultra. He's like the sarcastic Transformer. He's like, I'm Ultra
like
Schmultra.
He's John Travolta.
John Travolta Ulta.
John Travolta.
There it is.
That's the one. That's the guy.
The Transformer's name is John Travolta.
I want that Transformer immediately.
I do too, because he can dance.
Great dancer. That's what I was about to say. He's a great dancer.
He can dance.
Oh my gosh.
So today has been a real doozy, and I would say this week has been a little bit of a doozy.
Last week has been a mess.
It has been a mess.
I was sick.
Yeah, you were sick. Last week's episode, the technical problems were crazy, and so
which was recorded this week, by the way.
It was recorded this week
because I'm leaving. I'm gone next week. Which, but in case anyone's gonna throw me under the bus, by then my 14 days will have passed. So I'm still being safe. By the way,
and you've tested negative and being safe. So you're a good boy.
I'll be gone next week. So we're recording 2 this week. So we've had now 2 podcasts go absolutely sideways with technical difficulties or just weirdnesses or whatever. And as Elise said, we opened the week with Elise. It's all right if you say what happened at the beginning of the week, Elise?
Yeah,
I was sick.
Yeah, she was
in the hospital.
She was in the hospital. I mean, come on, guys. Not with COVID.
Not with COVID.
No. Totally different. Sick with something else. So that was crappy.
Yeah.
But you're okay now, right?
Yeah.
She's all right.
I'm almost 110. I would say I'm 99.
Oh, I love it. She's almost ultra.
Yeah, I'm almost ultra.
She's almost ultra Elise.
Yeah.
That's a good
I'm
status.
just mega Elise right now.
Mega Elise.
She's pretty much always mega Elise. Even at 80%, she's mega Elise. But
I love it.
We're looking for ultra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today for the podcast, we'll dive in here a little bit because, we got to get this done so that everybody can get things wrapped up and get going on stuff. But
sweet.
We are, since this is the OG crew and this is just us, one of the things we started thinking about was there's probably a lot of people out there asking very specific questions about the environment and whatnot. So I did a little digging, and first I looked for Yahoo Answers. I don't know if you guys knew this. Yahoo Answers doesn't exist anymore. It's gone.
What?
They wiped it out in May of this year. Yahoo Answers is...
That's fine. We'll go to Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, so I went to Ask Jeeves. Turns out that is gone also.
Oh my God, what?
Oh my God, that brings back like my childhood.
I know.
So
you want to be able to ask questions.
How do I ask questions?
Apparently, the only one I could find, there's probably others. People are going to write in and be like, no, you're not using the right one, but Quora.
I heard about that.
I don't know if I'm saying it right. It could be Quora. Quora. How would they say it in Australia? No.
Quora.
Perfect. See, that's why I love to have. I love that translation that we have on the show. Quora. So I went on to Quora and I was looking at some environmental questions, and this will be an interesting thing we can pursue because, of course, sometimes we hit these big stories in the news or like things you didn't know about, but there's probably things that we've talked about along the way that we assume that the average person even knows what it is because. Right. Words are kicked around all the time, and oftentimes we don't want to raise our hands and go, what exactly is that thing? We just...
What's a Travoltron again?
Yeah, right. What's a Travoltron? You want to just roll with it because you don't want to be the one to ask the question. You want to just be like, all right, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And then you don't do the research on your own. So I saw a question that said, does air pollution stay in your lungs? And that was the question. And so it got me wondering, beyond that question, that's not the only question we're answering, air pollution in general. It's one of those things that you hear about smog, you hear about particulate matter, which is often abbreviated as PM. You hear about all these things about air quality, and I'm sure that people out there are like, I don't know what all these things mean. Like, what the heck is smog anyway?
Right.
It's like a form of smog a form of fog that smells. Is that why? Is it stinky fog?
Absolutely. That's the scientific definition.
Smelly fog. Smelly fog. Smelly fog.
Let's just take out the F and add
That's how they do it. So I don't really, what I have some really basic,
I like how you swipe that open.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
So much flourish.
He's a quality swiper. He was meant to be a DJ.
Oh my God, that was my nickname in basketball.
Quality swiper?
Quality swiper.
Swiper.
Oh, swiper, no swiping. Like Dora the Explorer.
Swiper. Stole a lot of bases?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. So I'm going to start us out with just, what's the definition? What is air pollution? Okay. 2 common types of air pollutants that can reach unhealthy levels and affect lung health. Ground level ozone smog. Okay. And then the other one is fine particulate matter called soot. So those are the 2 things that they say in this Respiratory Health Association guidelines. Those are the 2 major forms of air pollution. Now, Noel, the expert that you are in this subject matter, did I hit those correctly, or should I read further? Like, there's a definition of what smog is. Should I read that as well? Or do you want to take?
Go ahead. You're doing great so far.
Am I doing all right? Okay.
Cora's really nailing it.
Ground level ozone smog, commonly referred to as smog, is formed by a chemical reaction between volatile organic compounds, VOCs, which I've seen that written thousands of times, and nitrogen oxides, NOx, in the presence of sunlight. So it's important that these 2 things are getting hit with that sunlight. VOCs are organic compounds that easily become vapors or gases, such as engine exhaust. NOx gases are produced from the reaction among nitrogen and oxygen during combustion. One of the largest producers of NOx gases is vehicle engine fuel combustion.
Oh my God. That makes so much sense now from one of our previous podcasts.
Yeah.
About them wanting to put that stuff in space.
Yeah.
That now I'm like, okay, that makes sense now because you're blocking the sun a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. You're blocking that UV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sure, less reaction from the sun. There's look, I mean, one of the reasons that we are able to have this podcast is because our product that we sometimes mention, Green Plus.
Yes.
It actually reduces the amount of NOx emissions that are produced as exhaust from the engine.
Yep.
And that is one of the major things that the EPA and most state governments are looking at is reducing the NOx. You're trying to reduce the amount of ozone. Like that's what you're looking for is, too much ozone. Basically, that's kind of close to ground level. Yeah. So, or closer than the stuff that's stratospheric. We want more ozone in some areas in the stratosphere because it helps to block out ultraviolet radiation, which can be good for we don't want to all burn to death, right? We've all holes in the ozone layer, right? Right. But when it's at ground level, it can be a problem.
Yeah.
So NOx is a big one because that's kind of where that's the biggest thing that we're kind of reducing apart, obviously from CO2. But nobody's concerned about CO2 when it comes to air pollution because we naturally have it as part of the mix in our lungs anyway. Right. So while CO2 is a bad greenhouse gas for global warming, it's not really a problem for air pollution.
Yeah.
I mean, unless we get way too much of it, then it could potentially be. But I think we'd all burn in a firestorm of hell before that happened. So I think we're fine.
Well, we're totally fine.
No big deal.
We're totally fine. No big deal. Yeah.
So that's that one. Yeah, and then you talked about particulate matter too. What are they saying about?
So fine particulate matter, and they also include the word soot, which is just
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And you can see it, right? Like that's the difference kind of between between smog, which everybody kind of knows about, is that you can actually see what you're breathing and you see what's coming in. It causes inflammation and potential problems down the road for cancers and all sorts of kind of messed up things. So
and for the record, before I get in particulate matter, California has gotten better even since the time that I have lived here, because I moved here 20 years ago, and the smog here used to be, and I've heard stories from people who lived here in the 70s and the 80s that was nightmarish. It's gotten better. In a city like LA, we have a reputation for smog. Mm-hmm. Like people around the country are like, oh, that smoggy city. But honestly, it's gotten better. There's been a lot of things that have been put in play to help it be better, but we do still have quite a lot of smog.
We're actually better than a lot of cities now because of everything that's been done. We have in California, we have an Air Resources Board or Air Quality Management District. Those are the two government services that protect our air, right?
Is that CARB?
CARBs, yep. California Air Resources Board, and then AQMD, Air Quality Management District. So, and they do a pretty good job of regulating it. What they do is they actually force the oil companies to refine the fuel so that it has less what's called aromatics. I'm getting really too technical, but
well, it's okay. I think this is we're digging in a little deeper, and people are going to learn a lot from this.
I mean, basically, if you had a perfect burn in these engines, all you'd get is carbon dioxide and water. That's all that's kind of all you'd get. Like you'd have that, and it would be released, and you'd be done with it. But that's obviously not what happens. The burn isn't. It's impossible to have
a perfect burn
with our current technology to have a perfect burn, right? I mean, we're burning all the fuel, so don't confuse the two, but we're not converting all the fuel into energy and then with very little waste. So that's kind of the issue. So what they do is they try to reduce the aromatics, because these aromatics are created by these things called benzene rings. And benzene ring is basically just it's a hydrocarbon ring that it doesn't burn very well. It's just that you can't crack it. You can't get it to open up so that you can burn it. And so they use all sorts of sophisticated catalysts in order to do that before it ever gets into the fuel, in order to make the fuel cleaner. And then with that cleaner fuel, you get with less of that, you're basically burning more of it. It's doing a better job of creating less NOx in the atmosphere. And that's the reason why we have less smog in LA than we used to, is because they refine it so much. That's also expensive. If you've noticed, in California, we pay like $1 premium over the rest of the country on fuel.
Yeah. So, and that's why because a lot of people would assume, I've had people come in. We
also have some other taxes and things that
we have a lot of taxes, but that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons is that people often go, why do you pay so much in California? And it's always the assumption of, oh, well, there's 7 million people, just in Southern California, and that's why it's so expensive. But there are so many regulations in place on our fuel that we have this reputation around the rest of the country, right? Because of things like CARB, of having the cleanest fuel kind, right?
Yeah, we do. I mean, our fuel is the cleanest mass-produced fuel in the world in California. That's something, if you live in California, you can feel very, very proud of that. It is. Well, there is actually another place where the diesel, at least, is as clean, if not a little cleaner, and that's in Texas.
In Texas. I know. That's why I wanted to bring it up. And that's because I was just having this conversation this morning. I had a conference call with somebody in Texas, and he was asking us about the podcast and whatnot. And then I was also telling him about Green Plus, and I told him about our involvement there. And that's why, what we do as the other part of the business with Green Plus is, we realize that everybody's looking for alternate ways of transportation and electric cars and whatnot, but we have a lot of fuel. We have a lot of diesel fuel, regular fuel that's going to be burned and is burned all over the world and in certain states, and these regulations aren't in place. And so our challenge is to help and give them an opportunity to reduce the NOx and reduce these things out of the air so that we can make the situation better as we're working on a transition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what they wanted to do in Texas. Yeah, and we're, by the way, we're not the only product that does it. We have competitors in the same market. There's other companies that have products that do it. But basically, the idea is, can you get the same emissions? Can you get the same reduction in NOx without having to refine the fuel? And so there's other ways to do it. And so if an approved they have this list of approved additives basically that can achieve that, and if you are one of them, and you've proven to the EPA and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality that you do that through a ridiculous amount of testing, they let you treat the fuel with that instead. So our product, as well as several others, are in the diesel in Texas, and Texas's fuel is actually Texas's smog. Their levels are better now than in Los Angeles. Like they've surpassed us. So it's, if you live in Texas, you can feel really good that you have the cleanest diesel in the world. And so it works, and you pay less because it's just less expensive to do it that way. So that's our horn toot right there. So we're going.
We have to toot the horn because look, I gotta say, in the we're episode 128 now. And we cover environmentalism, but it's important to talk about our business and what we do.
Try
and
not to. Yeah,
we try not to sit here and pitch you guys over and over and over
Make
again.
it the
But
main point,
but when you're talking about air pollution, it's kind of like we do know what we're talking about in this arena very specifically, and so we
have a solution for
we have a solution for it.
At least for part of it. Yeah,
I have a question about air pollution and going to other states because I don't know what happened to me, but when I was working in Montana, I don't know if like when I got there and I got to where I was staying, I ended up throwing up the first night.
Really? That's probably more related to altitude change. I would say than because there's not a ton of there's really not a ton of air pollution up there because they don't have very many vehicles. It's a lot of just per capita. There's just not that much pollution. There's a little bit of industry up there, but it's really it's pretty clean up there really compared to the cities. But you do have a significant change in elevation from when you're sitting here by the coast in LA. So and that can absolutely cause people to have problems with
and livestock farts. There's a lot of livestock out there. There's cows, there's horses,
methane,
there's bulls.
Awesome.
The methane. You probably got out off the plane, and if you lit a match, you just go up in flames in Montana. I don't know. I've never been to Montana, but I like to think
it's scientifically proven that if you go to Montana, the cow farts will actually kill you.
Wait, are you serious?
No.
Oh, no. I'm like laughing, and he's like,
this is what Noel and I are always guilty of. We talked about this so much on our last road trip. We were talking about he and I have been improvising for 15 years together now, and we're so quick to. One says something and the other one agrees with it. And the people around us are always like, is that true? And we're like, no, I'm so sorry. We've been playing yes and games since we met each other. And everybody's convinced by it immediately. And we're always like, whoops, we're sorry.
He looked so serious. And I'm like, of course he did. I felt so bad because I'm like laughing. And I'm like, wait.
No, this is something, it's one of our favorite pastimes, isn't it, Jacob? To go into a room and just make up a story that's completely not true. And then we'll add details with each other and just make it get bigger and more crazy until eventually someone goes, wait, are you serious? That's pretty much the goal.
No, before we move on.
Plug in my computer while you keep going.
I'm going to do a story. I'm going to do a story while you plug in your computer.
Because I'm worried that I'm going to lose our recording of my voice.
Yes. Go for it. Plug in your computer. I'm going to tell a story. So this is the part of the show where we embrace tangents. But the other day I was explaining, I have to do it because methane came up and farts and all that stuff. So I have to. I was explaining to my son what a slapstick movie was. And I was talking to him about The Naked Gun, Airplane, whatnot. And so I went to this YouTube channel because I wasn't going to sit there and it was like a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
I wasn't going to pop in like every slapstick movie ever. But I was like, I wonder if I can find somebody on YouTube who shows like the top 10 slapstick movies.
Right.
So sure enough, I sit down. This is about methane, Noel. That's what we're talking about. So we sit down and I'm showing him and they're going through the clips and we get to Dumb and Dumber. Mm-hmm. And have you ever seen Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey? Long time ago?
Yeah.
So anyway, it comes to the scene where Jim Carrey flips his feet back in the air and just pulls out a lighter, rips a fart, and flames. It cuts away and you can see like a gust of fire. And my son's mind was blown because he was like, wait, what? And I was like, first of all, to all Biofriendly Podcast listeners, don't do that. Don't do that because it's dangerous. But there is some truth to
my cousins do it.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my God! I have a video on an old phone. When I was down in Australia, and we were in this place called Bonnie Doon, and we were hanging out, and we'd maybe had it. I don't recommend this. We probably had a couple of drinks too many.
Apple juices.
You're supposed to be moderate with your apple juice, and we were maybe a little less moderate than other times because we're cousins. We haven't seen each other in a while. We were a little wacky. So apologies for that. But But so Steve, who's been on our show, he's been a guest on our show.
He's been on our show and he listens. So I love that he's going to get to hear that thousands of people now will know this.
Totally. Steve, he's the one who talked about wildlife in Australia and like when the fires were happening in Australia, he kind of helped to clarify that for us. And he's really smart cat, really good.
He's
guy.
a great dude.
But also hilarious and able to light his farts. So yes, there was. So I remember recording the video, and his brother Adrian was there, and so it was like it's a whole process. He had to get himself into the appropriate position.
Yeah.
And then you have to do it. There's a lie that you can do it with your pants on. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
It needs you need to be fresh cheeked to the wind.
Fresh cheeks. You got to have your butt exposed to the world. Exactly. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Yeah. So vividly in my mind.
Hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts.
The lighter goes on, and Steve says, "Am I lit?" And it says, "Yeah, we're lit, mate." And then he goes, and sure enough, it was a blue blast of fire that went just streaming out from behind him. It was one of the most hilarious experiences I've ever been part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're not teaching that.
I've seen it. It's true. It actually works.
Yeah, so my 12-year-old going on 13 learned for the first time that it was possible. And so it's a very funny thing to learn, and I remember the first time I learned it. So we were on the subject of methane and livestock farts and all that stuff, and I was like, this is the perfect time of the podcast to have an anecdotal
story time.
I got our thing a little peaked here, so hold on one second. But anyway.
This is where Jacob goes up to the computer and presses the button in order to say okay to make sure that we're still recording.
He just wants to look at himself.
Exactly. I just want to look at myself like I like to look at myself in mirrors during guest podcasts.
Part of our technical excellence on the show.
Yes. Well, that feature, I could probably find a way to turn it off, but it's like a thing to let you know that your volume level peaked out and you may have completely crushed the audio right there.
Right.
So I don't know. It's like a protector thing, and sometimes we peak it out, but it's also what prevents it.
There's too much laughter.
There's too much laughter. We have too much joy.
And screaming. Yeah, screaming.
All right. So since we've been,
so where were we?
Let's get back to particulate matter. Let's get to particulate matter now that we're off of farts. Fine particulate matter called soot refers to tiny particles or droplets in the air, nearly invisible to the naked eye, usually a byproduct of combustion, such as auto and diesel exhaust, power plant emissions, or wood smoke.
Yes.
That is what PM is.
Particulate matter can be created by it's any tiny piece of matter that exists, right? So it also gets just created by the roads. So you have rubber tires going along on the road, and then tiny microscopic parts of them come flying off, and then they become airborne and become part of the particulate matter. Actually, particulate matter is kind of a bad one. That's the one that actually is the answer to the question. I think the question was, does air pollution stay in your lungs? And
yes.
The answer is when you're talking about particulate matter, potentially yes.
Yeah.
So particulate matter, there's two types. There's PM10 and there's PM2.5.
Yep.
PM10, these are like sizes in microns, right? And so
I have a picture right here that shows the size of PM10 and PM 2.5. Yeah, right. I have.
Well, imagine your hair. Put it up on the screen right now. While we're right above, you can see right there.
I will, and that's exactly what it is. It has a follicle of hair and a grain of sand to the hair.
Hilarious thing is when you point that towards the screen, it's just a fuzzy. It's white, like it's nothing.
You can't see that, no. I'm just kidding.
No. It has. But as you can see by the image, I'm imagining that this is it. Do they have hair on the image?
It does. It has a
perfect. Okay, so a
picture of human hair and a fine beach sand, and then it has next to them both comparisons in size.
Yeah, your hair is about 70 microns, on average 70 microns thick.
Wow.
Right?
Mine's 100.
So, he's a smart dude.
Yours
yeah, hers
100?
is 100. Yeah.
Mine's
okay,
thick.
So some people have thicker hair. It's actually true.
Yeah.
People do have different thicknesses and thinnesses of hair. That's absolutely true.
The average.
The average person who's not as cool as Elise, let's say, has 70 microns. But so you got to imagine like a strand of hair is 35 times bigger than a PM 2.5 and 7 times bigger than like PM 10. Right. So that's kind of like that gives you an idea of how small these particles are.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So PM 10 is big enough that the natural systems in your lungs will clear it out. It'll get rid of it basically entirely, right? Like it'll get out. People don't quite understand what lungs look like or how they work. Lungs are crazy things, man. Like they're not air. I mean, they are air sacs, but they've got tons of blood in them. They got there is liquid in your lungs, right? And in fact, if you were to, this is like the most interesting stat I read once. So like the alveoli, which are like little tiny, like balls that and tubes that kind of run out to actually give to move the oxygen to the blood and then take it out of the blood and then convert it into your lungs so you can send it back and forth. That has a huge amount of surface area. It's a bunch of tiny little sacs and like tubes that are all throughout your lungs. There's a massive amount of it. If you were to take all the stuff in your lungs, as well as the surface area of the lungs themselves, and spread it out flat, it would be 70 square meters.
What?
That's the size of a tennis court.
That's insane. That's in our lungs?
Yeah. That's in our lungs. That's how much surface area is in our lungs to process things, right?
That's mind-blowing.
To convert oxygen and CO2 into something to basically attach it to the blood so the blood can run and the hemoglobin can move the oxygen and carbon dioxide back and forth.
It is crazy how much is crammed into these bodies. So like when you hear about the intestines and now about what's in our lungs. Yeah. Like it's crazy. We're like entire cities just crammed into this meat suit.
Yeah. Now I believe there's little people working in our bodies.
Driving.
That's a new meeting.
Oh my God, that's crazy. But it says right here, it says PM 2.5 is combustion particles, organic compounds, metals, and then it says on PM 10, it says dust, pollen, and mold. So that makes sense as to why you're saying the body is really good at getting rid of the bigger ones, because those are really common things, dust, pollen, mold. That's stuff that we deal with in a natural way. Right.
And it doesn't mean that won't mess you up or cause you problems or whatever. It's just that your body, for the most part, can deal with it, particularly if you're healthy, if you have healthy lungs, and it'll clear it out and you'll recover from it over time, right?
Yeah.
PM 2.5 is so small, so tiny that it can't always clear it all out. It can get stuck and wedged in places, and it can, over time, it can cause damage. It get into your bloodstream itself. It can attach to the hemoglobin, stop you from moving oxygen very well. It can do all sorts of problems like that. In fact, it's a cancer causer over time. So like if you're living near a freeway or you're living near like a place where there's a lot of PM going around, that's like your chances of getting asthma go up. It's actually a little bit worse, and that's So it's just because all that's out there. So that's one that you definitely want to reduce. And again, I'm going to toot the horn. Do it. We reduce PM 2.5 by 30% according to the United Nations.
Yeah. So we do a good job.
Yeah, we help out a lot. That's a big difference. Yeah.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, electric cars produce 0 PM. Yeah. Like they except in when they're doing mining for the we've talked about
it, but it's a fair point. It's a fair point that comes with its own.
It's contained in an area. You can do your industrial manufacturing and keep it in an area and keep all that PM kind of in one spot, so that only the workers die, right? As opposed to all the rest of us.
Right.
Of course, I hope the audience realizes I'm being a little sarcastic there.
But, he's being sarcastic. They know. They know you.
But I mean, we're not as. I'm not saying that Green Plus is the solution for everything, but we, as a stopgap, it definitely helps. We're definitely an energy transition fuel solution for sure. We're good for the transition. So, anyways, so PM 2.5 is a real bear. I think it's in a lot of ways worse. People would probably argue with me on that, but I think it's in a lot of ways worse. Yeah. Another one that's not mentioned there is just carbon monoxide, CO. Like people talk a little bit. People know a little bit about that because that's when you decide that you've had enough and you want to end it all, and you go in the garage and close the door and then turn on your car. What kills you is the carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide,
yeah.
And a little bit we talked about PM 2.5, which doesn't do it so much, but carbon monoxide is really good because it's got some similarities to oxygen and CO2, and that it's got the same parts as CO2, just less. Carbon monoxide it attaches to the hemoglobin that's trying to transport oxygen to the cells in your body, and then CO2 out of it, right? And it blocks it up, takes up the space, and then essentially hands you something you can't use. And if you have a little bit of it, you'll get headaches, you'll get like flu symptoms, you just feel kind of crummy. But if you get too much of it, then you're no longer transporting oxygen around your body. It takes over all the space, and then that kills you. And that's why people die when you turn on your car in a garage. So don't do that.
Don't do that either. Yeah. And don't light your farts on fire.
Do not, please.
Do not. Please don't. We need to start having those warnings at the beginning of the show that says, do not, these are trained professionals. Right? Yeah, real fast. Do not try this. These guys are idiots and trained professionals.
Right. But so I mean, look, there are some problems with these. Your body is a pretty amazing thing. I mean, our bodies are amazing. They do clean things out if you treat them well. If you put it in a condition where it can recover, your body for the most part recovers, right? Yeah. So that's treat your body well. Don't smoke. You know, the tar that comes in cigarettes is way worse than any of this. Like that just screws up your lungs. For someone, it takes like 7 years to clear that out of your lungs. So it's you know, there's a lot of things that are worse. But if you over time live in a city, it's something you have to kind of keep some concern of, and you certainly should be asking your local representatives to create a low emission diesel or low emission gasoline program.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, you know, and to do something about it now. Like we want the electric cars, and you should ask for that too. But they can fix a huge percentage of this problem very quickly by just starting a low emission diesel program or a low emission gasoline program.
And if you listen to this show, the great thing will be you'll be talking to your local representative, and you'll go, we should do a low emissions, program. And they go, but where would we find such a solution? You could be like, well,
listen to this episode of the podcast.
I know some people that make something called Green Plus, and that would be ideal because they're great and they are funny and I enjoy them. So,
and it wouldn't just be Green Plus if you're worried that you're just touting our product. It would be like, any program like that, any product, any product that qualifies and does the job would also be in there. It's just
You're being too humble, no.
You're being too humble. He's playing fair. He's playing fair. That's what he's doing.
Well, but we do tend to dominate wherever the market goes because our product's so easy to use and so awesome and fantastic and all those things. I'll say that. Yeah. But we, it would be you'd be just starting a program that lots of different additives qualify for. So,
yeah. I agree. And so, to kind of wrap things up.
And by the way, some are in process in other states. It's already happening. And as soon as I can talk about it, I'll let you know. There's some in a few other states that are already in the process.
In the works. I love it. Well, we answered that. Okay. So when I was doing the research,
I was the guest today.
You were the guest. You were the guest. You were the expert.
Oh my God, and I'm you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is great. And what I loved about it was you shared with us some nuggets of wisdom, but it still had the same vibe of the show. So you were the guest. So in a lot of ways, you were the best possible guest we could have on the show because you really fit the Biofriendly Podcast vibe.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. But well, I think that I'm all right. But I would say we have had some pretty terrific
We've had some
guests,
great guests.
We had some people come on and just whiz this thing.
Just crush it.
But now you're a friend of the show.
Now you're a fan of the show. So guess what? You're stuck with us forever now. In fact, why don't you start coming in here and recording with me?
It's such an honor to be a friend of the show. Please, have me back anytime. I'd be so glad.
Well, this is his second time back.
Yeah, because he said, since you were in, there was that other trip where you were in a hotel somewhere and we did an undisclosed location.
I just disclosed it.
You just disclosed
it.
Only super fans will know.
Well, it's too late now. I was in Florida for this.
Maybe most people won't catch it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they won't catch it. Yeah, but I was there was some business we had to do out there.
Yeah.
So. But yes, now I'm here. I'm still home. I'm literally home.
You're literally about 2 miles away from where we are right now, your office to home. So I can actually see you over there. No, but we answered the question, which is, does air pollution stay in your lungs? It can. Now, if you're exposed to it, it can only stick with you for a little while and you can get it out of your system if you're just briefly exposed. If you live in it all the time, that can really be a problem for you and cause some serious problems. But like Noel said, the body is amazing and you need to get hydrated. You need to get your rest. You need to take good care of yourself. And it's important to, if you are surrounded by nothing but automobiles and fast-paced city all the day long,
LA.
You need to take a break from that. And you need to go out into a forest and go for a walk.
Even if you find the local nature, it's going to be better because the local like trees, plants, all they do a really good job of absorbing some of this and converting some of it to other things. So that helps. And also generally, if you're in the middle of even if you live in New York and you're walking through Central Park, you're going to have less of it in Central Park than you do in the city because you don't have cars directly on top of you, right? And so go if you got nothing else, then just do more walks. In the park, get yourself into the park. And if you live in a place like LA, go like these mountains that are here. Go in them. Go up in the mountains. Get above it. Get above it as high as you can. Get out. Get into nature a little bit. Do your best to get away from it. If you have the option, try to pick a place that's not directly next to a major thoroughfare. That makes a big difference because the closer you are to the cars, the more danger you're potentially in. And then if you have a job that allows you to work remotely and you don't have to live in a big city, don't. I don't. That would be. I mean, a lot of people don't have that option. But if you have that option, then get out of the big city. It'll be better. It'll be better for you. But
and it might be cheaper.
Yes. Yeah. Beaches are great because a beach is a great point. You said by the beach, right?
Oh no, I said it would be cheaper.
Oh, I thought you said beach too. I thought you said beach too, but be cheaper and
by
the beach.
If you have a beach nearby, if you live in a city that's fairly close to water, the beach is great because you've got that onshore wind that's constantly pushing things away from you
into the city.
Yeah, into the city, into those poor saps that live in the city.
Right. And if you're in the city, it's don't panic, don't lose your mind too much about it. I mean, you'll be okay. Just find ways to kind of get out of it whenever you can.
Take care of yourself
and figure out ways. Ask for legislation. Demand it. If you're in a city like Chicago, right, that doesn't have any of these kinds of legislations yet, but you have just as many people and the fuel quality is just as bad. Write your Congress, write your representative, state representative.
Yeah, representative, and just say we need a program, man. We need to clean this fuel.
Ask for it. Ask for it because it makes a difference.
Now I'm going to ask the dumb guy question in the room because it's like one that maybe I should already know, but I'm going to ask it. We've had to wear masks a lot. Does particulate matter still make its way through most masks? Do you think?
Yes. It depends. Again, that PM10 is probably going to stop a bit more. I think, if you think of a mask as like a chain link fence.
Okay.
And the PM 2.5 is like coarse sand.
Okay. Right.
So it's maybe a little thicker than that, right? Whereas COVID is like fine sand, right? Which I don't want to, But it's like a coarse kind of sand that you throw at the chain link fence and it's going to block some of it, but a lot of it will still get through. Now PM10 is more like a golf ball maybe, so it'll block. It's got a good chance of stopping that now and again, right?
Yeah.
So you'll stop a bit more of that. I mean, it's certainly going to be, you're going to stop some of it. It's better than not.
I just was wondering. I was like,
and it's not like the PM is being thrown at your face like sand, right? That's not an accurate
in the atmosphere
description.
I was only asking because we had some silver lining, like we talked about last year during the height of the pandemic, which is, people were off the roads and so the sky got cleaner. So I was wondering in my head, I was like, could this last year of mask wearing, at least silver lining was we reduced some of the things that we were breathing that were bad outside of COVID? Were there positive things like that? So that was my dumb question.
Yeah, probably a little bit, but I wouldn't say I would say the biggest thing we had during COVID was that less people were driving, and that was really good for everybody's lungs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I wanted to know. That was the your dumb guy question of the week.
That was a good question. Great question.
All right. So, that's it, guys. We answered the question does it stay in your lugs? Yeah, a little bit.
Kind of, sort of.
So, Elise, can you handle the tags?
Do you think you can do all of them?
How many do you know?
Let's try.
All right, let's kick it off. Let's just see where we can go. Okay. We are your beacon of light in a gloomy environment.
Carefully avoiding neonicotinoids.
Yeah, you did it. You did it. Neonicotinoids.
Okay.
Nailed it.
That was a great one. We are the Siegfried and Roy and Meryl Streep of podcasts.
This show is a joke.
Yes.
It really is.
Never believe.
Don't.
Step one. Step one.
It's hard, isn't it?
Chill out.
Yeah. Step one, chill out.
I was like cold.
Yep. Spilling the teeth since 2019. And the latest one.
Technically perfect.
Yeah. That means it sticks, guys. It sticks.
It's going to stick.
It sticks.
Hopefully.
It made it through.
You crushed it.
That
was awesome.
So guess what?
I'm fired.
Yeah, you're done. Thanks so much for your time, Noah. We'll let you know when we want you back on the show. We're never having him back ever.
Never.
But guess what? But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna do this. You're gonna do Cheerio with me. So go Cheerio.
Bye.
It's the Biofriendly Podcast. It's the Biofriendly Podcast.